The illusion of separation is a deeply ingrained belief in the human experience, one that shapes the way we interact with the world and with each other. From the moment we are born, we are taught to view ourselves as separate entities, distinct from the people around us and even from nature itself. We learn to categorize ourselves into labels, identities, and roles that further reinforce this sense of separation. This illusion is so pervasive that it becomes difficult to imagine anything else, as though the walls between us are solid, unbreakable. But is this truly the case? Or could it be that what we perceive as a boundary is simply a creation of the mind, a construct designed to maintain a sense of order in an otherwise chaotic world? The idea of separation manifests in countless ways. We see it in the way we categorize people by race, nationality, religion, and gender. We identify ourselves through the lens of us and them, creating a distinction between the group we belong to and the other. This division, whether large or small, fosters the belief that we are fundamentally different from one another, that our lives are disconnected, and that our experiences are isolated from those of others. We forget that at a deeper level we are all part of the same intricate web of existence, woven together by the same threads of life. At the root of this illusion is the idea of the self, the belief that we are independent, isolated individuals, separate from the rest of the world. We perceive our thoughts, emotions, and experiences as personal, as belonging solely to us, and we cling to the idea of a fixed, unchanging self that must protect itself from outside forces. But in truth, the self is not as rigid as we imagine. It is fluid, dynamic, and constantly evolving, shaped by our interactions with the world and the people around us. When we examine our lives more closely, we see that we are not isolated beings at all. We are deeply interconnected with everything and everyone, and our sense of self is inextricably linked to the relationships we form, the environment we inhabit, and the shared experiences of humanity. This illusion of separation also extends to our relationship with nature. We often think of ourselves as distinct from the natural world, as if we are separate from the trees, the animals, and the earth beneath our feet. We build cities, create systems of commerce and technology, and impose our will on the land, all the while forgetting that we are a part of nature, not apart from it. The same forces that govern the natural world also govern our bodies and our minds. Our breath is the same breath that circulates through the leaves of a tree, and our hearts beat to rhythms that echo the pulse of the universe. The sense of separation keeps us trapped in a cycle of fear, competition, and isolation. We fight for resources, for recognition, for survival, believing that if we do not protect ourselves, we will be lost. But when we recognize the interconnectedness of all things, we begin to see the futility of this struggle. We no longer need to compete or divide, for we understand that what happens to one affects all. In this realization, we find compassion, understanding, and unity. We are no longer separate, but part of a greater whole, flowing together in harmony. The illusion of separation is a construct of the mind, a belief that clouds our perception of reality. When we dissolve this illusion, we see the truth that we are all connected, that we are part of a vast, interconnected web of life. In recognizing this, we can begin to heal the divisions within ourselves and the world around us. We can step into a new way of being one that is based not on separation, but on unity, love, and understanding. The art of being alone is often misunderstood, seen as a condition to be avoided, a state of emptiness or isolation, yet the experience of solitude holds within it profound potential for self-discovery, creativity, and inner peace. To truly be alone is not merely to be physically separated from others, but to embrace a deeper sense of connection with oneself, a space where the noise of the world fades and the quiet voice within can be heard. In a society that constantly promotes togetherness and connection, there is often an underlying pressure to avoid solitude. We are told that to be alone means to be lonely, and loneliness is often equated with failure or unworthiness. This view, however, is a reflection of a misunderstanding of what it means to be truly alone. Solitude is not a punishment, but rather an opportunity and invitation to step away from the external world and turn inward. In this space, we are free from the distractions of social expectations and the demands of others, allowing us to experience ourselves in a purer, unfiltered form. Being alone is an art because it requires a conscious choice, a willingness to embrace the discomfort that may arise when we are left to our own devices. Initially, being alone can feel unsettling, especially in a world that encourages constant activity and interaction. Our minds, unused to silence, may fill the void with restlessness, self-doubt, or fear. Yet, if we allow ourselves to sit with these feelings rather than running from them, we begin to uncover the treasures that lie beneath. The mind, once calmed, becomes a vast space of possibility, and in that space we can create, reflect, and grow. In solitude, we encounter ourselves in ways that are impossible in the hustle of daily life. Without the influence of others' opinions or the constant rush of external obligations, we come face to face with our true thoughts, desires, and emotions. It is in this space of stillness that we often discover hidden aspects of our being, our deepest passions, our unspoken fears, our unique creative abilities. It is here, in the quiet solitude, that the seed of authenticity can be sown. Being alone allows us to tap into our inner wisdom, to listen to the subtle guidance that we often overlook in the noise of the world. The art of being alone also involves the cultivation of self-compassion. In solitude, we are our own company, and how we treat ourselves in this space matters deeply. Rather than resorting to self-criticism or judgment, we must learn to nurture and accept ourselves fully. Solitude provides an opportunity to practice kindness towards ourselves, to show up with the same care and understanding we might offer a dear friend. By doing so, we can transform the experience of being alone from something that feels lonely into something deeply fulfilling. Moreover, being alone fosters independence, a key element in living an authentic and fulfilling life. In solitude, we learn that our happiness and sense of well-being do not depend on the presence of others. We begin to realize that we are complete as we are, not because of our relationships or external circumstances, but because we carry within us everything we need to thrive. This realization is liberating. It allows us to interact with others from a place of wholeness, not from a place of neediness or dependency. The art of being alone is not about avoiding relationships or retreating from the world. It is about learning to be comfortable in our own company, to find joy in solitude, and to see it as an opportunity for growth and reflection. When we learn to embrace being alone, we discover that we are never truly isolated, for in the silence we find the richness of our own being, and in that richness we find connection to the whole of existence. Solitude, then, becomes not a state of lack, but a state of abundance, a space where we are free to fully explore the vast potential that resides within us. The need for belonging and the desire for independence are two fundamental aspects of the human experience, often seen as conflicting forces pulling us in different directions. On one hand, we have an innate longing to connect with others, to be part of a group, to feel that we are not alone in the world. On the other, there is the equally powerful desire for autonomy, for self-expression, and for the freedom to make our own choices without the influence or constraints of others. The tension between these two desires can create inner conflict and external struggles as we navigate the balance between fitting in and standing out, between being part of the whole and asserting our individual uniqueness. The need for belonging is deeply rooted in our evolutionary history. As social beings, humans have always relied on groups for survival, protection, and emotional support. The desire to belong is encoded in our biology and is essential for our sense of security and well-being. From childhood, we are taught to seek acceptance, to fit in, and to be part of a collective. This need for connection can manifest in various ways through family, friends, communities, and even larger social or cultural groups. It provides us with a sense of identity and purpose, and the support of others can offer comfort during times of hardship. Belonging satisfies a deep psychological need for recognition, for the feeling that we matter, that we are seen and valued. However, this desire to belong can sometimes lead to compromise. In seeking acceptance from others, we may find ourselves conforming to social norms, abandoning our authentic selves in order to fit into predefined roles or expectations. We may suppress our individuality, change our behavior, or hide parts of our identity in order to be liked or accepted. This is where the tension with independence arises. As we strive to belong, we may feel our personal freedom slipping away, replaced by the weight of societal pressure and the fear of rejection. The need for acceptance can become a double-edged sword. On one hand, it gives us the warmth of companionship, but on the other, it can entrap us in a cycle of dependence and self-doubt. Independence, on the other hand, offers a sense of freedom from these constraints. It is the freedom to think, act, and choose based on our own values, desires, and beliefs. Independence allows us to express our true selves without the fear of judgment or the need to conform to external standards. It offers the ability to create our own path, to chart our own course without being influenced by the expectations of others. This freedom can be empowering as it gives us the space to grow, explore, and discover who we truly are. It is in independence that we often find creativity, innovation, and self-realization as we are unburdened by the pressures of social conformity. Yet this freedom can come at a cost. The pursuit of independence can lead to feelings of isolation, loneliness, and alienation. While independence offers the joy of self-reliance, it can also leave us feeling disconnected from others, lacking the emotional bonds that give life its depth and meaning. It can create a sense of detachment from the very society that we once sought to belong to. This is the paradox of independence. It gives us the freedom to be ourselves, but in doing so, it may also lead us to disconnect from the shared humanity that we are all part of. The key, perhaps, lies in finding a balance between these two forces, recognizing that while the need for belonging is natural and essential, true fulfillment also comes from honoring our own independence. We must learn to belong not at the expense of our individuality, but in a way that allows us to remain authentic. Belonging, then, is not about losing oneself in the group, but about finding a community that supports and nurtures our unique contributions. Likewise, independence does not require complete detachment from others, but rather a sense of inner sovereignty that allows us to interact with the world on our own terms. In the end, the need for belonging and the desire for independence are not opposing forces, but complementary aspects of our human nature. We are both social creatures and independent beings, and the challenge is to navigate the delicate balance between these two drives. When we learn to embrace both, we find that belonging and independence are not mutually exclusive, but are essential parts of a life that is both connected and free. Releasing the fear of judgment is one of the most liberating and transformative acts a person can undertake. Throughout our lives, we are conditioned to be highly sensitive to the opinions of others. From childhood, we are taught to be aware of how others perceive us, to seek approval, and to avoid rejection. This fear of judgment shapes many of our decisions, from the clothes we wear to the career paths we pursue, often leading us to live not according to our true desires, but based on what we believe will be accepted or praised by society. The irony, however, is that in the process of shaping ourselves to meet external expectations, we can lose sight of who we truly are. At its core, the fear of judgment arises from a deep-seated need for validation. We want to be seen, heard, and acknowledged, and we fear that if we do not conform to societal norms, we will be cast aside, overlooked, or even ridiculed. This fear often stems from a lack of self-worth or self-acceptance, the belief that we are not enough as we are. When we rely on others' approval to feel good about ourselves, we place our happiness and sense of value in the hands of others. This creates a vicious cycle where the fear of judgment controls us, rather than the other way around. The challenge, however, is that the fear of judgment is an illusion. Judgment is inherently subjective. It is not a fixed truth, but a reflection of the perspectives, biases, and experiences of others. People judge us not based on who we truly are, but based on their own filters and projections. And even if they do pass judgment, it says more about them than it does about us. When we recognize this, we begin to understand that judgment is not something we need to fear. It is simply a momentary reflection of someone else's experience, and it does not define us. To release the fear of judgment, we must first cultivate a deep sense of self-acceptance. We need to come to terms with the fact that we are imperfect, and that this is perfectly okay. Our uniqueness, our quirks, our flaws, they are all part of what makes us who we are. The more we embrace ourselves in our entirety, the less power others' judgments hold over us. When we learn to love ourselves fully, independent of external approval, we no longer need to seek validation from others to feel worthy. Another powerful way to release the fear of judgment is to shift our focus from the opinions of others to our own inner compass. When we begin to trust our own instincts, values, and desires, we become less concerned with what others think. This doesn't mean we disregard others entirely, rather, it means that we prioritize our own truth and well-being over the fear of disapproval. When we live in alignment with our authentic selves, we attract people who appreciate us for who we truly are, and the need for external validation becomes less important. It's also essential to understand that no one is exempt from judgment. We all face it at some point, whether we are aware of it or not. The more we realize that everyone, regardless of their status or success, is subject to judgment, the less we will take it personally. Judgment is part of the human condition, but it doesn't have to control our lives. We are not defined by others' opinions, but by how we choose to see ourselves. Releasing the fear of judgment is not a one-time event, but a continuous practice. It requires awareness, courage, and the willingness to step outside of our comfort zones. It means allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, to express ourselves authentically, and to let go of the need to please others. Over time, as we practice this release, the fear of judgment begins to lose its grip. We begin to understand that true freedom comes from within, and that the opinions of others can no longer dictate our self-worth. Ultimately, by letting go of this fear, we reclaim our power and embrace the fullness of who we are. The nature of true friendship is often misunderstood in a world that places so much emphasis on superficial connections and fleeting interactions. In a society where social media has become a primary form of communication, friendships can sometimes feel transactional, driven more by convenience or mutual interests than by a deep, meaningful bond. However, the essence of true friendship goes far beyond these surface-level connections. True friendship is built on trust, mutual respect, empathy, and a profound understanding of one another that transcends time and circumstance. At the heart of true friendship is an unconditional acceptance of each other, flaws and all. In authentic friendships, there is no pretense or expectation of perfection. Friends do not require each other to be anything other than who they are. This acceptance creates a safe space where both individuals can be vulnerable and open without fear of judgment. In such friendships, it is understood that we are all human, with strengths and weaknesses, triumphs and struggles. Rather than trying to fix each other or impose ideals, true friends support each other in their journeys of growth, offering encouragement, comfort, and sometimes gentle challenges to help one another become the best versions of themselves. Trust is another cornerstone of true friendship. It is through trust that a deep bond is formed, one that can withstand challenges and time apart. True friends trust one another with their innermost thoughts, fears, and dreams, knowing that these confidences will be honored and respected. This trust is not something that is easily given, nor is it something that can be rebuilt once broken. It is built through shared experiences, honest communication, and the consistent demonstration of loyalty. True friendship thrives on the security that comes from knowing that, no matter what, a friend will stand by you, offering both support and honesty. Empathy plays a significant role in the nature of true friendship. It is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person, to step into their shoes and see the world through their eyes. True friends do not merely listen to each other, they actively engage with each other's emotions, offering not only advice or solutions, but also a deep sense of understanding. This empathetic connection allows friends to bond in a way that goes beyond mere words, fostering a sense of shared experience that strengthens the relationship. Moreover, true friendship is rooted in the willingness to give without expecting anything in return. It is not a relationship of obligation or score-keeping, where one person always has to pay back a favor. Instead, true friends give because they genuinely care for each other, without the anticipation of reciprocation. This selflessness creates a sense of harmony, where both individuals feel valued and appreciated for who they are, not for what they can do for each other. The joy of giving, whether it's time, care, or support, flows naturally in such friendships, and it deepens the bond between individuals. True friendship is also about mutual growth. It is not about holding each other back or being trapped in a cycle of dependency. Instead, it is about encouraging each other's individual paths and celebrating one another's successes. Friends who genuinely care for each other want to see one another flourish, and they are willing to offer both emotional and practical support to help each other achieve their goals. In this way, friendship becomes a catalyst for personal development and transformation, helping both individuals become more aligned with their own true selves. The nature of true friendship is a rare and beautiful thing. It is a bond that grows over time, nurtured by trust, empathy, acceptance, and mutual respect. True friends are not defined by the number of shared experiences or the frequency of their interactions, but by the depth of the connection they share. It is a relationship that is built on the foundation of unconditional love and support, where both individuals can be their authentic selves without fear of rejection or judgment. In such friendships, we find not only companionship but also a deep sense of fulfillment and connection to the world around us. Self-compassion is one of the most transformative practices we can cultivate in our lives. It is the foundation of a healthy relationship with ourselves, one that allows us to navigate life's challenges with kindness, understanding, and patience. Often we are quick to show compassion to others when they are struggling, offering them words of comfort and encouragement. Yet, when it comes to ourselves, we tend to be harsh, critical, and unforgiving. We hold ourselves to impossibly high standards, believing that if we are not perfect, we are somehow unworthy. This inner dialogue of self-criticism creates a barrier to self-love and growth, preventing us from fully embracing our humanity and potential. At its core, self-compassion is the ability to treat ourselves with the same care and understanding that we would offer to a friend in times of difficulty. It involves recognizing our own suffering, whether it is emotional, physical, or mental, and responding with gentleness rather than judgment. Rather than dismissing our pain or berating ourselves for feeling vulnerable, self-compassion encourages us to acknowledge our struggles with warmth and acceptance. It means being kind to ourselves when we make mistakes, when we fall short of our goals, or when we feel overwhelmed by life's challenges. This kindness is not about indulging in self-pity or avoiding responsibility, but rather about offering ourselves the space to heal and grow without the weight of self-recrimination. Self-compassion also involves understanding that we are not alone in our struggles. Often when we face difficulty, we feel as though we are the only ones going through it. We believe that our suffering is unique or that we are somehow inadequate because of our pain. However, when we practice self-compassion, we remind ourselves that suffering is a universal human experience. We all face challenges, make mistakes, and experience disappointment. By acknowledging that we are part of a shared human experience, we can soften the isolation that often accompanies suffering. This sense of connection allows us to feel less alienated from others and more accepting of ourselves. A key aspect of self-compassion is mindfulness, the ability to be present with our emotions without judgment. When we experience pain or discomfort, our natural instinct may be to resist or avoid it. We may distract ourselves, push our feelings away, or deny the reality of what we are going through. However, mindfulness encourages us to approach our emotions with curiosity and acceptance, rather than fear or avoidance. By fully experiencing our feelings, we can begin to process them in a healthy way rather than letting them fester or dictate our behavior. This mindful approach to self-compassion allows us to be gentle with ourselves while also acknowledging and addressing our needs. Another important element of self-compassion is the practice of forgiveness. We all make mistakes, and it is inevitable that at times we will fall short of our expectations or let others down. When this happens, we often turn on ourselves with harsh criticism, replaying our errors over and over in our minds. Self-compassion invites us to let go of these patterns of self-blame and instead embrace forgiveness. This means offering ourselves grace, recognizing that we are doing the best we can with the resources and knowledge available to us. Forgiving ourselves allows us to move forward with a sense of freedom, rather than being held hostage by guilt or regret. In many ways, self-compassion is a practice of reparenting ourselves, offering the nurturing, support, and love that we may not have received in the past. It is a choice to treat ourselves with the same care and empathy that we would extend to a child or a loved one. This requires us to shift our mindset from one of self-criticism to one of self-acceptance. It means acknowledging our flaws and imperfections without judgment, recognizing that they do not define our worth. The more we practice self-compassion, the more we create a healthy and loving relationship with ourselves, one that is built on a foundation of kindness, patience, and understanding.